How can you break a woman's expectations to get her more attracted to you in a short amount of time? Hi there, I'm Harry Wilmington, men's dating coach and founder of introvertdatingsuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be going over 5 ways that you can break expectations that women typically have of men, so that way you're actually able to leap ahead of those other guys that they may be competing for her love and attention, and actually get her interested in you a lot faster. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when I post up new daily videos. Also, go to the website to check out my free video training, How to Get Attractive, Feminine, Emotionally Stable Women Dying to Respond to Your First Messages on Dating Apps Without Using Sleazy Pickup Lines, which will give you key secrets to sparking attraction and conversations with women online the smart way. Let's get into it. So I wanted to talk about this today because I was actually watching a video on YouTube earlier, and it was a guy that was interviewing women about just a wide variety of things that pertain to dating, whether it's like, should a man be the one to ask a girl out first, and what are her expectations about how soon physical things happen. And it dawned on me that at least in my dating life, I have found that a lot of the things that I do, it turns out, are things that go against the expectations that most women have for guys. And when women date, they date going in with the best of expectations, but I'd say well over like 95% of the guys that women date, they typically end up not going out with beyond just 1 or 2 dates. And part of the reason that actually is because over time, men start to do a lot of the same things that, unbeknownst to women, actually do annoy them, and they don't oftentimes know that or recognize that that's a thing that's actually turning them off. Well, since I am a dating coach and since I've studied this stuff for years, I just learned over time that, these are things that most guys aren't doing that they should do. And I found that when I did these things that I should do, that it was such a mind-blowing thing to women that I was the guy that was doing these things that they didn't, initially they were kind of like, what's going on? Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm expecting this guy to do these things over here, like all these other guys, but he's not. And that gave a little bit of more intrigue to me and who I was, in terms of being more mysterious, in terms of not knowing everything about me, in terms of some of the other ways that I went about doing dating. And I noticed that when I did these different things, women were getting attracted to me a lot faster and a lot stronger than they were before. So I kind of want to go over some of these things. And they're things that I have talked about sporadically in various shows, but I want to kind of put some of these ideas together in this one show and kind of really detail why these things work so effectively, okay? So the first way that you can break expectations is have a plan for a date. Now, this doesn't seem like it should be that controversial or that big of a deal, right? But in my dating journey, as I've dated, I've talked to women, and time again, they've said a major thing that made me stand out from all these other guys that were trying to hit them up is that these other guys did not have a plan of action for a date. They weren't trying to, and sometimes they were trying to ask her what they should do on the date, or trying to get her approval of what he possibly wanted to do. Or sometimes it would be something as simple as they'd just be like, oh, you can come to my place. Like, they didn't really have a full set out idea of like any kind of activity, any kind of date, any kind of time, any kind of like preparation for her to know about prior to going on the date. Like, they just had no plan. And something as simple as saying like, as already having in your head like 4 or 5 different restaurants you could take her to, or, various kinds of activities that you could do for first date, whether it's a coffee date, whether it's a walk in the park date, whether it's, it's Christmas time now. So whether it's like going to go see Christmas lights, the point is that women really respond well to men that have a plan of action for a date, because the majority of men that ask them out do not have a plan. And just breaking that simple expectation is going to not only get you more dates, but is going to make women feel even more attracted to you simply by being a guy that's able to set out a plan and execute it without having to ask for her help. So that's the first one. The second expectation you need to break in order to build attraction faster is to not force the idea of sex on these dates. Now, this is not to say that you do not want to, possibly try to lead things in a direction, but there's ways you can do that are going to be a little more passive, in terms of like something as simple as saying, hey, you want to go back to my place and get some drinks or watch a movie? That's a way to say, hey, I want to hook up. Are you game? If she says, no, I'm good. I think I'm just going to go home for now. That lets you know that she's not down for that. And hey, you tried. Best of luck to you. But what a lot of guys do is they put so much attention into having to get the hookup, as if to say, if I don't get this hookup, then the woman doesn't find me attractive. And women go on dates to try to get to know you. And sometimes that could include getting physical with you. But that does not mean that if she doesn't want to get physical with you, that she's still not interested in getting to know you. It could just mean it's only been 1 or 2 dates and she's not comfortable yet with going to that step. And that's perfectly fine. So if you happen to bring up some kind of passive idea that indicates that you want to do some physical stuff, and she says, well, something else that indicates that she doesn't want to do that, then for you to spend the whole evening now trying to say, well, we should go back to my place, and why don't you want to kiss me, and why don't you want to come up to my place and we can just talk and drink, whatever, why you, the more you push it, it goes from you're in this to try to get to know her to you're in this purely just for the sex. And again, as a guy, there's nothing wrong with wanting to have sex with this person that you're going on a couple of dates with, but it does not mean you push the idea to the point where she feels so uncomfortable with you that she feels that you're not respecting her boundaries or her timing from when that's going to happen, and then she gets rid of you altogether. And it varies. I've been out with women who that first date, she's feeling comfortable enough for us to do some stuff, and I've gone out with dates where it takes 2 months to get to that point. And regardless of when it happens, my thought is always, ultimately, I'm in this to get to know her, and I want to get to know her because I want to make sure this is going to be something that I'd want to be with long term. And so in my comfortability, I might want to do it sooner than she does. And if that's a situation, then that is what it is. But if I'm still asking her out, she's still saying yes, we're still doing other touchy-feely things or whatever, and she seems to be responding positively to me, then you can let that wait a little bit, okay? But don't be forcing the idea so much that it's going to chase her off. And this is what most guys do. Most guys, she expects when she goes out on dates with guys that they're going to be pushing really hard for sex. And so I tend to be the guy that on that first date, I don't even bring it up. I don't make any kind of major innuendos, and I don't try to hint that we can go back to my place unless, let's say on first dates that I've been on where I'm like, hey, do you want to come back to my place? That's usually if I've been feeling the vibe all night that things are starting to go from just us meeting each other to, wow, things are really amping up in terms of the us touching each other, us kissing each other. That's when I'll bring it about. But for the most part, those first couple of dates, I don't bring it up. I usually typically wait until I start getting hints from her that she's kind of ready to go there. And I can, at this point, read what those things are. And if you don't know what those things are, you can go to my website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. You can also go to Apple Podcast or whatever and listen to more of these shows to get an idea of the kind of signs women show that indicate they're ready to get physical, okay? But again, you wait for those signs, you kind of look for them, or you throw things out there to see how she responds to it, but you don't force the issue, okay? And if you're a guy that's not forcing sex, what I found is that by not being that guy, you're actually going against her expectation, and it's something that she thinks she wants. She's like, oh, he's not going after me for sex, this is great. But then she starts thinking, but does that mean he desires me? Or does he not desire me? The only way I'll find out is if I try to hint some stuff to him, that we can do some stuff. So you end up getting the hookup a lot faster simply because you're not chasing after it so much and looking desperate. So that's the second thing. The third way to break expectations with women is you need to wait X amount of days before you call her for the next date or text her. And this is where a lot of guys mess up, because you would think that if you go on a date with a woman and you have a good time, that logically she'd want to hear from you and would have no problem if you were trying to text her the next day or trying to call her up to ask for another date right away. And most women expect guys to do this. But does that mean that because they expect it, that it's in their best interest for their interest in you? And what I found is that most of the time the answer is no. Most of the time I have found that if you try to text a woman to call her the next day, and then you try to hit her up every day after that, she gets unattracted to you really quickly. On the other hand, my experience where I go on a date, I have a good time, I wait 4 to 6 days to wait before I text her or call her, one or two things happens. Either before I get to that 4th or 5th day, she's already texting and calling me, or I get to the 4th or 5th day and they're so excited to hear from me that they're willing to go on a second date with me, and they're also willing to go a little bit further on that date just to prove to me why I should be hitting them up faster. So there really is no downside to waiting, because if a woman has high interest in you, you could wait a day, 4 days, 6 days, 2 weeks to contact her, and she's going to be happy. But I have found just on my own research that the sooner you hit a woman up after a date, the less of a probability you have of being able to keep her interest long term. You need to give her time between dates to think about you. And here's the thing, by breaking this expectation, you're going to stand out from the other guys that are rushing after her. So let's say she goes out with you and like 4 other guys in a week, okay? Those 4 other guys, I guarantee you, are going to hit her up the same night or the next day to say, hey, just want you to know I had a good time. Hope we can get together again soon or whatever. But they're not going to go the long distance. And more importantly, those guys are giving up to her an indication that they are desperate for her attention. And then here you come, you took her on a date, she had a great time, and she wants to hear from you, and you're not hitting her up. So now she's having these days to think about, did he have a good time on the date too? Maybe he really wasn't interested. Did I do something wrong on the date? God, I hope he calls again. I had such a great time with him. When can I hear from him? And all she's doing is building up this positive image of you off of one date because you will not contact her. So it is in your best interest to wait, I say a minimum of 4 days before contacting a woman for another date. You're going to get more second dates and third dates by doing this than you will if you follow her expectation and hit her up the next day. So that's number 3. The 4th way to break her expectation is also to only see her once a week in the beginning. And this is another place where guys mess up, is they think that, okay, well, because we had a good date, she's going to want to see me more often right away now. Like she's already made a decision about me being the guy she wants to date. So I'll call up for a date on Wednesday and Thursday and then Saturday and then Tuesday. And it's like, women expect this. Women expect guys to try to over ask them for too many dates. And they're not aware that when men do that, they're going to actually lose interest a lot faster. And that's why you have this typical burnout where, I've seen guys in these various forums say, well, me and this girl, we met on an online dating platform or whatever, and then we were going good. And then like a month later, all of a sudden she decided that she's not answering phone calls now. She's not answering texts. She's not going on dates with me anymore. I don't know what happened. And I know exactly what happened, is that they were making themselves too available and they weren't giving her time that she needs to actually be away from the guy and let her brain help her to build up more of an interest in him. Versus if you're a guy that's only going out once a week, what's going to happen is now she's starting to feel like every time she goes out with you, that one time a week, it's the best time she's had in her life. And now she has to go through the job of figuring out how to convince you to go on more dates with her. And as she starts to do this, what this means is that she's actually building up interest. So for example, you take a girl out once a week for the first 3 dates. Well, that's almost 21 days, right? So 3 dates in 21 days. So by that 3rd date, if she's really feeling you, and let's say at this point you've hooked up or done whatever, now she's going to be starting to hit you up to say, hey, so I know we normally see each other once a week, but I wanted you to come over this one day, so we can maybe do it 2 days a week. And so she's going to start trying to offer another type of hangout outside of the one that you're offering. So now you're up to 2 dates a week, but it's at her pace. She's the one coming to you because you've broken the expectation of, as the guy, you're going to be the one to hit her up all the time and ask for these dates, which ends up chasing her off. So this is also a good way to have a good barometer of the level of interest that she's having for you as it grows, okay? And then the 5th expectation you need to break in order to build some really good attraction real fast is to not ask her or be in a rush for a relationship title. And what happens with a lot of guys is that we are very much after 2 or 3 dates, we already kind of know or think we know if this woman is the perfect girl for us. And so what men will do is they will, after the 2nd or 3rd date, start asking questions so are you dating anybody else now? So are you still in the dating app? So are we, what are you thinking about me and you or whatever? And it's too soon. Because women take a little bit more time. But more importantly, women need that extra time to really be more sure in their feelings for you so they won't just leave you at the first sign of trouble. And with a lot of these burnout relationships, after that first month, the texts start getting less and she starts seeing you more because you start getting too serious. You start asking these kind of questions that indicate you want a relationship and she's not there yet. And so this is how a lot of guys lose out. But if you are the guy that breaks that expectation and is able to just kind of go with the flow and say, hey, you know what? As long as I'm asking her out on dates and she's saying yes, and as long as we're getting regular hookups, then I'm good. And if she decides she wants a title at some point, she'll let me know. And any girl that I have gotten into a relationship with, they have always been the ones to let me know that they're ready for that title. To be in a relationship. But part of that is because I break the expectation. They expect most guys to try to rush them into a relationship and try to ask them out right away to say, hey, what are we, and yada, yada, yada. And I don't do that. So after 2 months of dating, they start thinking man, he hasn't asked me for a relationship yet. Oh, I'm glad we weren't rushing into it, but I think I'm kind of ready. I wonder if he's ready, but he's not asking me. Maybe he's just using me for sex. Maybe he just doesn't want to be alone. Maybe he doesn't really feel as strongly for me as I do for him. I don't know. But the only way I'm going to know that is if I get into a relationship with him. And so I need to go ask him these questions. And it's this thing where, like, ultimately, guys, as men, we're the ones that are going to chase after physicality and sex and stuff like that. But they're going to be the ones that chase after a relationship. If you reverse that and have it be that you're the one trying to ask for a relationship, you're going to lose more women. But if you're able to break that expectation and not bring any of that kind of thing up, trust me, if you have not asked the woman in the span of 2 or 3 months to be the girlfriend, she's having conversations with her other girlfriends, her close family members, her sisters, whatever, asking these questions. Well, what do you think I should do? Well, I don't want to scare him off, but should I ask him what we are, what is that? Let her go through that, because all that anxiety that they're feeling, all that anxiousness, all that worry about whether or not you want to be in a relationship, that only helps you, because if they're feeling those things, it means that, in effect, they are the ones that are getting deeper in their feelings. And if they're coming towards you with the idea of a relationship, then there's very little chance of them trying to run away. Because, as I always say, if they're chasing you, they can't be replacing you. If they're coming after you, asking for the relationship, then there's a lower chance of them wanting to dump you later on. Okay? So be mindful that this is not something you need to do. You do not need to be asking for a relationship. And most guys are going to do this. And unbeknownst to women, they're thinking that they want Prince Charming to come to them and say, hey, I've wanted you for these last 2 months and I want to be in a relationship, blah, 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 blah. And it sounds nice. It sounds like something that they should want, but it's not something that is as effective as you being able to say nothing and for waiting for them to come to you and ask these questions. So just to break down these 5 expectations you need to break in order to build a stronger attraction. Number 1 is start planning dates. Number 2, do not force the idea of sex having to happen on these dates. Number 3, wait a minimum of 4 days to text or call for another date. Let them come to you if anything, okay? Number 4, only try to take her out once a week in the beginning and wait until she starts proposing more dates before you go on more dates per week. And number 5, do not, under any circumstances, ask for a relationship. I know some of you guys out there are like anxious when you hear that, like, oh my God, if I don't ask, blah, blah, blah. Trust that you are doing the right things. Trust that she's having a good time with you, and trust that in due time, if she really likes you and she doesn't want to let you go or fear or risk you like going off to some other girl, that she will come to you. If you follow these 5 expectation breaking actions, I promise you, your dating life will be much better for it. Thanks for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. While there, you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Texting Like a Boss, where you'll learn the kinds of texts that really attract women. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment on this episode, and catch new episodes 7 days a week right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out some other episodes so that you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.